Hi, we're Carbon Connect International, and this is a short overview video of the two exciting incentive programs we're managing in Alberta, the Baseline and Reduction Opportunity Assessment Program and the Methane Technology Implementation Program. Let's start with the Baseline and Reduction Opportunity Assessment Program, or BROA. The program launched on December 1, 2020 to provide funding for small and medium producers to inventory equipment, identify emission sources, and provide recommendations for solutions. The program is administered by Carbon Connect International, supported by the Methane Emissions Leadership Alliance, and funded by the Government of Alberta. The program objectives are first and foremost to create jobs. I think it's clear to everyone that Alberta and the oil and gas industry have been hit hard in the last few years. So this is one of the initiatives by the Government of Alberta to create jobs. Next, the program will help identify emissions reduction opportunities, raise awareness about energy use and the associated economic and environmental impacts, and support operators to move forward by providing recommendations for project and funding options. BROA funding is available to upstream oil and gas operators for facilities located in Alberta and subject to Section 8 requirements under AER's Directive 60. Service providers who will be executing the assessments must be pre-qualified to participate. The program includes 3 assessment types. The first is a device and equipment inventory. The inventory portion includes the device manufacturer, model, and serial number, detailed specs, and associated photos of all equipment on site along with GPS coordinates. Deliverables include the quantification of vent rates and emissions volumes where applicable, along with project recommendations and a review of funding opportunities. The second type is leak detection, which will identify and quantify fugitive emission rates and inform operators of leak repair and equipment installation opportunities. This assessment type can only be done in conjunction with a device and equipment inventory. The last assessment type is the extended flow and gas composition analysis, which will provide the operator with the baseline volume and flow rates, as well as detailed chemical speciation analysis of a vent source. This assessment type can be done alongside a device and equipment inventory and leak detection, or as an independent survey. This type has been left fairly open, as the specifics will be determined by the operator's project development needs. The reason for executing this type of survey will have to be provided in the application. Incentives are pre-approved up to 80% of the total eligible project cost based on the service provider quote. Quote requirements and the list of eligible and ineligible costs are detailed in the BROA program guide, and the service provider quote must be approved by the operator. Incentives will be adjusted to the final invoice amount, and payment will be made to the service provider. The maximum incentive is $200,000 per operator. There is no minimum incentive amount, nor is there a minimum or maximum number of facilities per application. Funding is approved on a first-come, first-served basis. The program consists of 6 main steps. You'd start by selecting one or more survey types. You would then prepare and submit all application documents via the CCI portal. Our technical team will review the application, and if it meets all of the program's requirements, the project will be approved for funding. Once the service provider receives the approval, the project can start and the assessments can be executed. Incentive payments are made at 2 key points. The first 50% of the approved incentive amount will be paid to the service provider after the data has been submitted and approved by the technical team. Data submission requirements for each assessment type are detailed in the program guide. Once the final report and invoice are submitted and approved, the total incentive amount will be adjusted based on the invoice, and the balance of the incentive will be paid to the service provider. And finally, once the operator provides proof of payment approval for the remainder of the service provider invoice, Carbon Connect will release the final report and copy of the raw data to the operator. Project approvals will continue until June 30th, 2022, or until funds are reserved in full, whichever comes first. Project applications should be submitted for approval well in advance of this date to allow sufficient time for application review and approval. And all approved projects must be completed by December 31st, 2022. Please note that no extensions will be granted beyond this date. As As mentioned earlier, the final report resulting from the BROA device and equipment inventory assessment includes a review of project funding opportunities in Alberta, one of which is the Methane Technology Implementation Program, or MTIP, also managed by Carbon Connect International. The program launched on September 25, 2020 to provide funding for the deployment of simple and cost-effective methane emissions reduction projects. The program is administered by Carbon Connect International, supported by MELA, and funded by the Government of Alberta. There are 4 main objectives for the program, the first being jobs. As mentioned earlier, Alberta and the oil and gas industry have been hit hard. This program is another initiative by the Government of Alberta to help get Albertans back to work. Also, by reducing methane emissions, the program will assist companies with meeting environmental, social, and governance standards. The funding provided helps lessen the cost burden of complying with AER's Directive 60, which will have to be met by 2023. And last but not least, it will enable operators to keep product in the pipe, which increases the volume of product that goes to sales and contributes to the bottom line of those businesses. MTIP funding is available to upstream oil and gas operators with facilities located in Alberta and subject to Section 8 requirements under AER's Directive 60. It applies to facilities which are either part of an aggregate facility as defined in TIER or facilities which are not regulated under TIER. This means that facilities that are defined as large emitters or have opted in to be regulated as large emitters are not eligible for MTIP funding. The program has a list of project types that fall under these 5 categories: pneumatic devices, hydrocarbon storage tanks, compressors, other and non-routine, and casing gas. Note that this list may be updated from time to time. If you don't see a technology for a project you would like to implement, you can submit an eligible technology application for consideration. If approved, the technology will be added to this list and it will then be eligible for funding. Incentives are approved up to 50% of the total eligible project cost, up to a maximum of $2 million per operator. There is also a minimum incentive amount of $10,000, and projects can be aggregated to meet that minimum threshold. Funding is approved on a first-come, first-served basis, and payment will only be made to operators. The program is comprised of 5 main steps. First, once you've identified a methane reduction opportunity, you log into the CCI portal and submit an application. Our technical team will then review the application, and if it meets all of the program's requirements, the project will be approved for funding. Once you have received the approval, the project can start. Incentives are distributed at 2 key stages. The first is at procurement. When equipment arrives at the site, procurement documents are submitted in the portal, and 50% of the approved incentive amount will then be paid out. The second will be when the project is installed. Once completion documents are submitted in the portal, the remaining incentive amount will be paid out. Project approvals will continue until June 30th, 2022, or until funds are reserved in full, whichever comes first. Project applications should be submitted for approval well in advance of this date to allow sufficient time for application review and approval. And all approved projects must be completed by December 31st, 2022. Please note that no extensions will be granted beyond this date, and that MTIP projects still have a maximum time frame of 6 months from project approval to completion. There's still time to apply for both programs, but you need to act fast. Time is running out, and funds are also going quickly. For all the details about these programs, visit the programs page of our website or download a copy of the program guides from within our booth. We would be happy to chat with you during the conference, or feel free to contact us by phone or email at any time.